people.
And so there is no confusion in the New Testament. Yes, God did speak through Old Testament prophets, and in a sense, of course, the Old Testament prophets have ceased because they were prophesying things concerning Jesus' first and second coming, and obviously the first coming has been fulfilled. Therefore, there was a distinction with that, and maybe New Testament prophets aren't of the same caliber, maybe we can put like that. However, true prophets have a true ministry still today. And I guess what we're saying, and we're open the phone lines now, but I guess what we're saying to people is, if you are of this cessationist era, go back and look at Scripture.
Absolutely.
Look at it in context. Don't just take. We've shared Ephesians 4. We're going to talk a bit more against 1 Corinthians. Acts,
Read the book of Acts.
And because the book of Acts is very interesting, because the book of Acts doesn't end, does it?
No.
It ends with Paul sitting there teaching, and there's no amen, so let it be. It's going on. And in one sense, we're still writing the book of Acts.
Well, there's a fantastic
today.
Christian group. They use contemporary modern music, rap music and whatever, and they call 29th chapter.
Does the Lord even believe them? All right.
Yes. They call 29th chapter because they believe, of course, the book hasn't ended, and they are part of the next chapter, as we all are.
And so I guess because both you and I can understand, because we were both there, we were both in a situation in our early Christian life where we really did not want the gifts and didn't think they were. We both came to and so was I. But we both came to the place, and God graciously brought us. One of the things, JT, that I want to underline and throw out for you is the position of the Corinthian letter.
Yes.
The Corinthian letter is a corrective letter. All the way through, Paul is not saying, or sometimes he does say, this is wrong, but he's always saying, this is right. In other words, so the way that they shared the Lord's table, they weren't doing it correctly.
That's right.
Now, very few people, if any, in the established evangelical church, certainly nobody, I don't think, would say the Lord's table has passed away, because we are to do it till he come. And yet he corrected it. He corrected the way that they met together, and so on and so forth. And that's what he does with the gifts. And in exactly the same way, he doesn't say the gifts aren't right, but what he says is the way that we use them is not right. Do you think that understanding is missing today? And do you think that teaching is missing today within the church?
I do. I think even amongst Pentecostal and charismatic churches, there still needs to be some kind of a corrective. And I remember the first time I came across live prophecy in tongues, I was equally appalled and puzzled at what I saw. When I travel to Africa, I travel to Africa quite often, and I often hear people. I am very pro speaking in tongues. Okay, I think it's a delightful gift, and I don't think charismatics or Pentecostals make enough of this gift, or even plumb its depths. Okay, but I hear public speaking in tongues as an example, which is frenetic, screaming and whatever. And I've often walked up to someone and said, "My love, slow down. Be quiet," because it's almost like as if many people will not correct these things. So the type of thing that Paul did with the Corinthians, I think, is still needed. Not to clamp it down, because let's be honest, he could have said, "Don't do it," and he didn't. He actually said, "I speak in tongues more than you all," and he actually said, "Do not forbid speaking in tongues."
I just can't help it. I mentioned Dennis Clark earlier on, and Dennis, as a charismatic that had his feet on the ground, it was Dennis. And I remember in one meeting, this woman was supposed to be speaking in tongues, and I mean, he said it was just like a chicken squawking. So he went up to him, put his hand on her, and prayed that the foul spirit would come out of her. Now, Tom from Cambridge, hi there. Hello, Tom.
How's Wales?
Sorry?
How's Wales?
Oh, how's Wales?
Wales is good. Do I know you, Tom?
Well, I've rung up a couple of times. In fact, I think somebody who rang earlier was actually asked you a question because it was me who asked about the Lord's Prayer a while ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the right and the words, the right words and all that.
Yeah.
But today, I'm just wondering about the Holy Spirit because I've just been reading a book by Smith Wigglesworth.
Yeah.
And he says that when the Holy Spirit comes, people talk in tongues.
Right.
And I was just wondering if you can actually have the Holy Spirit without talking in tongues. I don't know if that's a silly question, but
No, it's not a silly
I'm quite
question.
a new Christian. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find my feet everywhere.
That's fine, Tom. I'm glad you feel free to ask these questions, because if we don't ask and share together, we never get any answers. So that's great. It's not a silly question at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
do you want to say something else, Tom, first?
Yeah, just leading on from that, and then I'll put the phone down
Okay.
and listen off here. But I've been getting kind of inspiration and, feelings about, prophecies and things. I don't know if it's prophesizing, words of knowledge. I'm not quite sure of all the terminologies, but feelings. I mean, I've actually spoken to Mark Willits on his program Voice in the Wilderness.
Yeah.
Not on air, but off air. I've emailed him with a few things, which I've felt in the spirit kind of thing. But after reading this book about Smith Wigglesworth, I mean, I haven't spoken in tongues, so I'm thinking, well, can I actually be inspired? You're laughing at me.
Okay.
I'm thinking, well, because I don't want to mislead any of God's people, you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
I'm still struggling to find my feet in everything, and I'm thinking, well, okay, I'll listen off here now.
Good question. Listen off air, and then obviously if you need something more, you can email us again afterwards.
Okay,
and
God bless
we'll do.
JT. Love
Bless you,
Wales.
Tom.
Bye.
Thanks for that. So, can you be? Let's be clear. We all have the Holy Spirit who are born again to a degree. So that the fact is, you can have the Holy Spirit in that sense. If we go to the fullness of the Holy Spirit, baptism of the Holy Spirit, whatever, is it possible to be filled with the Spirit, to be baptized in the Spirit, and not speak in tongues?
The short answer to that is yes.
Good.
I will recommend 2 books, though.
The Book of Acts and the Book of Romans.
No. One, for those who are struggling with what we're talking about today, I would strongly recommend a book by Jack Deere, D-E-E-R-E, called Surprised by the Power of the Holy Spirit. And I wish that book had been published when I was about 20 years old. The other book is by David Pawson. Now, half of what David Pawson writes, I'm on completely the opposite end of the scale. But on this particular issue, I'm very much with him.
Right.
And it's published by Terra Nova Press Publications, and it's Jesus Baptizes in One Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that explains the biblical issue. Just to expand on the answer then, yes, when people came into this experience of the Holy Spirit, particularly in the book of Acts, there are a number of things which are the manifested result of that taking place. There's praise, there's prophecy, there's speaking in tongues, which is the most common, and praise, prophecy, speaking in tongues, and something else, can't remember. But there's a number, mostly verbal.
Right.
Okay? So I don't believe for 1 minute that it has to be speaking in tongues, but I will say this, that if someone has a desire to be able to speak to God, which speaking in tongues is from us to God, but they haven't been baptized in the Holy Spirit, as they work through the prayer in Luke, for instance, or John 7, when they're thirsty and they're seeking God, just say, Lord, I want to be baptized in the Holy Spirit. I want to be filled in the Holy Spirit. And as a sign of that, I would love to be able to speak in tongues. I ask you, please. I don't deserve it, I know, but please give me this gift as a token. Get someone who's experienced to help you and to pray with you. And
but not work it up. Do you say to
No,
help
don't
you?
work it up, no.
I mean, I've been in meetings where people have given them a few phrases to.
Olive a shandy and a banana.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but if it, it's usually Caligasita is the one.
Yeah.
But if it's of God, it comes. He comes, not it comes. He comes.